The Dangers in My Heart started out as one of the most underwhelming romance anime. Everybody, including myself, seemed to hate it because of the main character's weird, murderous intentions. Its rating plummeted into the ground, and it was deemed a failure from the start. However, in just a blink of an eye, it became one of the most beloved romance anime of all time, leaving people with a genuine experience of post-anime depression. If your question is, how the fuck did that happen? Well, we first have to understand why people hated it so much at the start. This is Ichikawa. He is kind of weird. At least that's what he has convinced himself to be, and that's how he thinks everyone feels about him. At the start, the anime spends the first minute exploring his ideas of his weird murder fantasy thing. And as a viewer, you might wonder if this is actually supposed to be a romantic comedy or some messed up horror. However, the anime quickly shows that he isn't what he says himself to be. He would never hurt anyone. People don't hate him. They don't think he's that weird. And the anime demonstrates that throughout his actions in the first episode. He thinks of murdering this girl, going on a cringe monologue of how he just wants to see her beautiful face distorted in pain. However, every time he sees her uncomfortable or upset, he immediately rushes in to help her because he absolutely can't stand to see her in pain. When he sees her struggling to do her assignment, he hesitantly gives her his box cutter, despite worrying that it would make him look like some creep. Ichikawa is just an awkward, edgy teen whose only way of coping is by thinking that there is something wrong with him. Just so you can understand, this is how the manga starts. Nobody here knows that their peaceful junior high school existence is in constant danger. I'm messed up. Stabby stab. He isn't even like an incel. When he realizes that his girl might have a boyfriend, he doesn't get angry. He just gets genuinely sad, then throws his bike in front of them out of frustration. It's pretty common for teenage boys to be quite angry about the world. We can all relate to him to some degree, although hopefully not about the murderous part. When it first came out, I instantly dropped it because in my mind, I wrote it off as something weird and just a waste of time. However, to my surprise, it became one of the most beloved and highest rated romance anime of all time. So I had to pick it back up, and now I can't stop thinking about it. So I'm using this video as an excuse to gush about it. Now that you know why people disliked it at the start, what changed to make it suddenly one of the biggest romances? What made it stand out? Well, quite ironically, the characters. People love the way the characters are written. The anime perfectly captures the essence of teenage emotions, insecurities, and the struggles of self-discovery, while portraying genuine growth and maturity that sometimes hits way too close to home, making us realize we are not that different. As soon as people started to understand why characters act a certain way, they felt a strong connection. What really stood out is that the author perfectly captured of how a teenager's mind operates. Not just at what they go through, but how they feel deep inside. Take Yamada for example. She's this adorable glutton who appears to be the perfect girl. She is tall, attractive, a model, and first it seems like she's completely out of league for anyone. However, in reality, she's quite a doofus and does some inexplicable things that genuinely leave me scratching my head sometimes.
She's a real actual weirdo, you know. Like the other day, we were walking around having fun eating some crepes when this one here got a big dollop of whipped cream on her face. She tried to get it off with even more whipped cream.
Despite acting quite stupid sometimes, we quickly realized that she isn't this one-dimensional character as we initially thought. I really love about her character that despite being quite an airhead, she can be mature and attentive when it matters. She genuinely cares about the people around her and doesn't act like she's above them. However, she's still a goofball. We also have Ichikawa. We already have a pretty good idea of what he's like, but what made me enjoy his character is his growth. It's easy to label him as a chuny, but it's more complex than that. He doesn't fit the mold of the conventionally attractive romance main character found in typical anime. However, that doesn't mean he should. He's socially inept, insecure, and from the first episode it feels like he's given up on the world, retreated to an edgy shell to protect himself. I initially thought that his edginess would be the focus, and most things would revolve around that. However, the focus actually ended up on him reflecting on that and growing from it. His character is crucial because the anime portrays self-doubt and struggles that come with it. It's essential to acknowledge that such feelings are not uncommon. I hate the fact that how many times I can relate to him. It happened way too many times where I wanted to scream at my monitor for him doing some stupid shit. Do this main guy, wait, what the fuck? Just to realize that I did the exact same thing. He's strangely realistic, which is why his character works so well, and his growth feels like a natural progression. One thing I particularly dislike about some romances is that growth tends to be exponential and abrupt. With Ichikawa, his maturation occurs gradually in each episode, making it a perfect example of show not tell. His edgy personality makes him quite perceptive, very aware of what happens around him, and thus that perceptiveness allowed him to help others. And it turns out, he's quite an empathetic character who cares a lot for the people around him. However, what makes this romance really special for me though, is that how involved side characters can be. They are not just there to push the story forward or stretch out the conversations, but they actually have their own stuff going on. They are not one-dimensional, and honestly, any of them could be the main character. Almost any of them. I especially love the big sister of Ichikawa, Kana. She has just the right amount of mischievousness, kindness and coolness. Her totally third-wheeling so many times is hilarious to watch, yet that is not the only reason she's in. Kana genuinely cares about Ichikawa, and I appreciate these moments where she senses the need to protect him, while also knowing when to step back. She's this adorable couple's most dedicated shipper. Other than that, the anime also has characters that never show up in romance. The parents. I love the parents for both main characters so much. Especially this scene in the current last episode where both of them confess their love to the parents. Especially Yamada's dad reaction was perfect. The way to know if you are accepted into their family is if the dad gives you his friend code. Also, you can't deny he is just the cutest character ever. Him blushing when Ichikawa liked his soup is way too adorable. Also, even the pervert kid can have his moments. Him saying out loud his insecurities helped Ichikawa realize his own flaws. However, characters overall are not enough to make people truly care. You need to make a good connection with them in a natural way, and the author did an amazing job. Just like in typical romance stories, it takes an unusually long time for the characters to actually get together. It happened way too many times where the end of the anime was them getting together without showing them being actually together. It's the biggest blue ball an anime can give. However, just this once, I don't mind it. It doesn't annoy me that the characters aren't immediately getting together. What I love is that the romance isn't necessarily the main focus of the anime. It's about the growth of Ichikawa through socializing, meeting people and finding love. By this point, they should already be together, but I like that the writer doesn't allow that to happen. Ichikawa is a horrifically insecure and anxious kid. He has to change for the relationship to work. He has to love himself first and understand that people do care about him and don't look down on him. The dynamic of the main duo is also just so sweet. I love that behind their attractions there are actual reasons. They don't just fall in love with each other for no reason. It's not just looks. They help each other out a lot. It might not seem like it at first, but Yamada is a really insecure person. The potential of hurting others is a genuinely scary thought for her. She's inherently kind, but she's not accustomed to putting herself out there for other people. Now she has to learn how to make herself vulnerable to take care of someone else and make them feel good. I love seeing her make such an effort to show affection. In many romance anime, the dynamic often feels one-sided, like one person is the gardener and the other is the flower. However, in this anime, both characters put effort into making their relationship work. Now the anime features a lot of great characters with a good dynamic. However, the reason for its high rating is because it's filled with so many amazing moments. I'm so used to seeing that one ultra emotional standout arc that usually happens at the end of the season. However, The Dangers in My Heart completely breaks that rule by having so many emotional moments every single episode. Just when you think it couldn't get more emotional, the show ensures it delivers impactful moments every single episode. You might expect it to be overwhelming, but there are just so many gut-wrenching moments that I can't stop thinking about. I especially love this moment because of how many small details it has. It occurred fairly early on where they didn't really know each other well, and they coincidentally met while out eating. Yamada's friends asked her if anyone had ever tried to hit on her, and Ichikawa was also curious about that. However, upon realizing that Ichikawa was trying to eavesdrop, she started shaking the flavor packet to drown out her answer. Yet as soon as he began talking, Yamada stopped shaking it in hopes of figuring out who he was with, only to discover it was his sister, leaving her seemingly relieved. Later on, she even followed Ichikawa in the hope of talking with him. I find it really cute, and I like that the characters actively seek out conversations with each other. No playing around, no hiding. She actively flirts with him, which is ultra rare in anime. I'm just so used to tsunderes. I also just really appreciate all the details. The show is filled with things you have to pay attention to truly notice. It won't explicitly tell you why she started shaking the flavor packet or why she went downstairs. and I love that. However, later on when Yamada gets to know him even more, she plans to totally not date on Christmas Day with him. And I just love the way she does that. She understands that he's really insecure, so she knows that telling him that they should go somewhere is just not going to work. Therefore she lures him in until they end up in a restaurant, then shopping. Her trying her darnest to get Ichikawa to say she was cute was adorable as always. What I really liked throughout this episode is how she did so many things to ensure that Ichikawa didn't get the wrong idea, and also helped him feel more comfortable. While they were eating, Ichikawa took a video for her and she sent it to him. However, as soon as he started looking at it, I love that Yamada said, "Don't forget the real thing." This implied that he should stop focusing on this image of her and instead think of her as another human being, encouraging him to stop overthinking things, even continuing later on to make sure that he doesn't try to hide her from his sister anymore. I also just love this small moment of her giving Ichikawa a scarf to make sure he can't look down. Finally finishing the episode with her making it clear that she wants to see him before New Year's. This is the point in the anime where a significant shift occurs, transitioning for their friendship to something more. And I really appreciate the angle the writer took. It doesn't necessarily fit her character to be super open, but I like that the writer used this episode to add more depth to her character. This anime is constantly filled with moments like these, and I could go on to talk about them for hours. However, the final things that make this anime so good, and the reason quite a lot of people prefer the anime over the manga, is because of its production. It's quite rare to hear people preferring the anime over the manga. However, in this case it's pretty clear why. Manga just can't have music. The fact that the soundtrack was made by Kensuke Ushio elevated the anime so much. There are just so many tracks that really helped make emotional moments stand out. Even most of the songs playing during the video were from the anime. I think it's also nice to see how much the quality of the anime improved between the two seasons. It's night and day how much better produced the second season is. It also shows how dedicated they are when they made two Twitter accounts to reenact what happened between two characters in the current last episode. I think the last time an anime did that was Licoreko, with their shop having a Twitter page. Overall, this anime is so much fun to watch. It really reminds me of an old classic romance anime, but there are a lot of things that it fixes. The characters have a lot more detailed personalities, they change, they have emotions, they can be relatable. It's obvious why it has such a high rating, and if you somehow got this far without actually watching the anime, please watch it. If you want to hear about another amazing romance anime from this season, then click on this video, like, subscribe. Thank you for watching, goodbye.